State Senator Chris Van Hollen. He represents the people of Maryland. Instead of working toward alleviating the suffering of his fellow Americans, he wasted his time, his effort, and taxpayer money flying to El Salvador in an attempt to assist a recently deported illegal immigrant MS-13 gang member.
He was living in Maryland, designated MS-13 terrorist, and Donald Trump deported him. How does that make you feel?
I feel safer.
He gotta go. He gotta go.
Need to go. I mean, that's it.
But he was a father.
But he's still a terrorist.
I think at some point, the president of El Salvador realized it was looking really bad to have this person who had been absconded from America, from the streets of Maryland.
Just flew to El Salvador to fight for a guy who rode shotgun on an MS-13 deportation flight because nothing says defending democracy like demanding VIP treatment for a dude with a protective order and a prison bunk. This one's dumber than Kamala Harris trying to explain AI to a third grader.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process.
A delegation of 4 Democrats, yes, a full-blown overseas mission, landed in El Salvador to fight for the release of a so-called Maryland man named Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Congressman Garcia, what have you been able to learn about Abrego Garcia as far as his whereabouts and his well-being, for that matter?
Right. Well, first, we obviously went there to ensure that he continues to be safe, that he continues to get access to counsel. We know that now that through the courts, at least the El Salvadorian government says that he is alive still. We hadn't heard that since Senator Van Hollen's visit. But this continues to be a very, very serious issue for him, his family, and the country. This case represents a Trump-defying a 9-0 decision of the Supreme Court. But we also advocated directly to the U.S. ambassador there on the ground. It's clear from our meetings with him and others that the U.S. Embassy has received no direction to begin any sort of facilitation as directed by the Supreme Court, which is incredibly concerning. And at the same time, we, of course, met with Abrego Garcia's family and, most importantly, human rights activists and advocates that are on the ground advocating in El Salvador, not just for Kilmer Garcia's release, but also to ensure that due process is in place for other folks that are down there. We advocated, for example, for Andrea Romero, who's a young Venezuelan asylum seeker that had been granted asylum process, a young gay man who is now imprisoned with no access, and we have no idea his condition. And so the visit was incredibly important, eye-opening, and we'll continue to push and keep the pressure on.
The only problem with this is he's not from Maryland. He's not even supposed to be in the United States. And he sure as hell isn't some innocent victim of an administrative justice error.
The report suggests something strange was going on when he was pulled over on a Tennessee highway in 2022. The officer at the time suspected it was a human trafficking incident. And it looks like that, doesn't it? Now we're told through a DHS source that the car Abrego Garcia was driving belonged to a convicted human smuggler. This guy's really a delight. 8 other people were with him. They all used the same home address as Abrego Garcia, and no one has luggage for the drive. How do you figure that? Texas to Maryland, no luggage? Spanning multiple days, multiple states. Something is not adding up here. You put it together.
Kilmar's an El Salvadorian national with no legal status. He's been denied asylum and no parole, but the media wants to call him a Maryland man. Like he's a friendly neighborhood crab cake dealer instead of a deportee who boarded an MS-13 express flight to Seacott prison.
Well, I'm supposed to be not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
How can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
And now, thanks to the circus that we call the leftist legacy media, we've got 4 Democrats. We've got Ansari, Dexter, Frost, and MS-13 caucus founding father himself, Congressman Robert Garcia, down there waving American flags, waving their American flags, demanding justice for Kilmar. This is a very fitting name here. Let's just read what Garcia said in El Salvador. He said, "We obviously went there to ensure that Abrego Garcia continues to be safe."
Hey, it's Congressman Garcia. I am here in El Salvador with a group of House Democrats advocating for the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia and, of course, checking in on so many folks who have been sent here without due process. The Supreme Court has ordered unanimously that Kilmar Garcia should come back home to the United States. We also know that he was sent here wrongfully. The Trump administration admitted that. We have met now with the U.S. Embassy here, the ambassador. We're meeting with advocates on the ground who are organizing here in El Salvador. We've talked to Abrego Garcia's family, which is heartbreaking. And more importantly, we're here to raise awareness. A Democrat, I'm here with 3 other members of Congress, Congress members Maxwell Frost, Congress members Ansari and Dexter, as well as Chris Newman, who is the lawyer for the Abrego Garcia family. And so we're very grateful to be here, and we're grateful that Mr. Newman's here with us as well. We're all going to say some brief remarks.
Safe? Safe? You want to go to El Salvador to make sure that Abrego Garcia is safe? Let me ask you this. Was Lincoln Riley, was she kept safe? What about Jocelyn Nongari? She wasn't kept safe. Or Rachel Morin? She sure as hell wasn't kept safe. But the Democrats are jet setting to a foreign country to make sure that Kilmar is comfy in his El Salvadorian jail cell.
But I think what really matters to Americans is that this MS-13 gang member, who unfortunately, Jay, you and a lot of your colleagues have called a Maryland man, when in reality,
I'm going to stop you there. What is your evidence,
member.
Tricia? Wait, I got to stop you there. What's your evidence that he's in MS-13?
Well, there's actually been 2 separate immigration judges, Jay, who have confirmed and ruled that he is a member of MS-13.
Well,
that as well as we have intelligence
it was brought up in deportation
they sure
proceedings.
Did, Jay.
But what's the evidence that was brought up in those deportation proceedings that he's in MS-13? And they dismissed his appeal,
Jay. I can do this all day, Jay. He is a member of MS-13. I don't think you'd want to be his neighbor, Jay. I sure wouldn't. And I don't think many Americans watching would want to be this individual's neighbor.
Meanwhile, Senator Chris Van Hollen, the Democrats' go-to emotional support animal, went down there too. And he went down there shaking hands with prison guards and crying about due process. Due process for a guy his own wife filed a protective order against in 2021. She claimed Kilmar punched her, scratched her, and ripped her shirt off.
Have to ask it. You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
My husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, and you know I'm not going to push on that apparently.
But hey, she said that they did counseling and they're good now. Even Kilmar's wife said nobody is perfect. And no marriage is perfect. Yeah. Okay. That is what you say when you show up to work with the black eye and you're like, I fell down the stairs. But you're on the receiving end of a domestic violence situation. Yeah, that is definitely not the defense that you use when the guy accused of human trafficking had to be legally restrained from contacting you.
He did have due process. Everything we know about him is documented because he did go through the court systems. He was stopped for trafficking. His wife did file these domestic violence charges against him. He was arrested with MS-13 members with a roll of cash that had the eyes and the ears and the mouths of the presidents erased, which is an MS-13 markings. This is all non-disputed. So
nothing you're talking about doesn't stop halfway.
But I'm saying he already got his due process and he got a deportation order.
The White House said, if the hombre comes back, we're going to deport his butt again. Tom Homan dropped the mic on this. He said Kilmar had more due process than Lincoln Riley. Facts.
Good line. You said that this guy Garcia got more due process than Lincoln Riley. Or I'll add Rachel Morin. Or I'll add Jocelyn Nungary. Or I can scroll the names of other Americans that have been murdered, raped, and victims of violent crime. They didn't get any due process, did they?
No, they didn't. He got due process. He got 2 immigration judges, 2 federal judges ordered him deported after a hearing. He got due process, but you're right. Angel moms and dad across this country, they get no due process, just like the parents of the 2 that were killed by an illegal alien in California. They didn't get due process. And we're, you know, so they enter the country illegally, so they ignore the legal process when they come here illegally, but all of a sudden they're getting deported. Now they want to take advantage of the legal process. It's upside down, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing, Sean.
While we're at it, let's talk about Van Hollen. He's out here demanding for Kilmar's return, yet he voted against the Lincoln Riley Act. You heard that right. He said no to protecting Americans from violent, illegal migrants, illegal hombres. But he said yes to lobbying for a deportee accused of trafficking and domestic abuse.
You mean Chris Van Hollen, the guy that didn't want to sign the Lincoln Riley Act that protects American citizens against illegal alien criminal gang members? Who instead of protecting Americans, his constituents, his taxpayers, he goes to El Salvador and defends an illegal alien with a deportation order that's a member of MS-13 that's been designated a terrorist organization by President Trump. That's where he went to defend it. It's just disgusting. The same senator who state yesterday released an illegal alien charged with murder, refused the ICE detainer, hit the street. So rather than protecting his community, protecting the residents of Maryland, he goes to El Salvador to coddle an MS-13 gang member terrorist. It's ridiculous. And also,
who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared
so
on a
taxpayer
bipartisan
dollars.
basis. Yes.
You, and
Where is the common sense here, guys? You cannot make this up. And even if I did make this up, you guys still wouldn't believe it. These are real headlines. These are real people in the Democrat Party going over to El Salvador to see if this man is safe.
We've spoken to the administration about how they are not making the argument about MS-13 in court. But you told my colleague Dana Bash yesterday that you did not ask Abrego Garcia whether or not he's actually in MS-13. You said you know what his answer is. But how do you know if you did not ask him?
Well, because I know what he's said many times in court, and that's the proper forum for debating this. And as we know, the federal district court judge in this case said, and I brought it with me again, and I'm going to read it, no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or to any terrorist activity, period. That has been what Abrego Garcia has been telling the court. And I would ask you, Caitlin, really, if I'd come back and said, oh, I asked him if he was an MS-13 and he said, no, he wasn't. I mean, right? The whole point is this is a conversation that's supposed to happen in court.
An El Salvadorian national deported with suspected gang members. Homie even had the stuff tattooed on his hands. He also has a protective order filed against his wife. And the Supreme Court says, oops, bring him back. Now, 4 Democrats fly over to El Salvador like it's a student exchange program for felons, and they're calling it a fight for due process. I'm calling it mission moronic. Maybe if Lincoln Riley's murderer had filed a protective order, the Democrats would have shown up. How about you try prioritizing American families over foreign nationals who entered this country illegally and caught a free ride to a high security prison? And to Congressman Garcia, next time you want to ensure that somebody's safe, maybe start with your own constituents, you douchebag. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.